Thank you. So that transitions us into Israel. Many have proposed one-state solution, two-state solution. There are a variety of views of the issue. So we'll go back to the College Republicans and let you.
So on the issue of Israel, we have seen Hezbollah, a group that Palestine actively supports, bomb the Israeli citizens on a daily basis. They will commit killings of Israeli citizens. And if anything, the Democratic Party were the ones that carved out the country of Israel under Truman. So I do have to say that the Democrats, as you say, were complicit in the genocide. I think the Democratic Party has been complicit in some of the stuff that's happened around the world. We support Israel because of the fact that they are surrounded by countries that don't agree with them. They don't agree with their philosophies on democracy. They don't agree with their philosophies on how they live their lives. And that's why we support Israel. And as far as a two-state solution versus a one-state solution, we would like to see a two-state solution. However, we're not going to tie the hands of the Israeli government. We're not going to tie the hands of them to have to say, this is what you have to do, this is what you can't.
And I would like to go off on that and say that many times the Israeli government has proposed to Palestine a two-state solution, and each and every single time Palestine has rejected it, extensively. And I don't think it's Israel's fault for wanting to be cooperative with Palestine, and yet Palestine does not want to cooperate with them.
So I would say when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Libertarians are there's a wide range of views. Some support Israel, some support Palestine. I would argue that this is just me, this is just personal opinion. I would argue the United States shouldn't support either. I think we should remain non-interventionist again. And on the point, I know you guys were going back and forth about accusing each other of genocide. Which I don't think is particularly helpful, but I think we should judge each other as individuals and the individual party, because unfortunately, both parties, if we're going to judge that fact, have that genocide. In the conflict I was just talking about, East Timor, President Ford did initiate the arming of the genocide, but President Jimmy Carter, Democrat, came in and increased the arming of the genocide. So, and then I would go to the Al-Shifa bombing of Bill Clinton, where he killed 2,000 to 3,000 Sudanese because he killed a pharmaceutical factory. I could go to George H.W. Bush putting in sanctions on Iraq, which resulted in deaths of about 500,000 people, including women and children starving to death. So that's why Libertarians are so vehement that we need to acknowledge our crimes and stop committing them. And that's why we need to remain largely non-interventionist, because the government sucks at its job. So that's what I would say.
And I think a lot of conservatives or former military people would hear what we say and be like, well, you guys are anti-American. Not at all. I'm not a terrorist sympathizer in the slightest, but we have to acknowledge when we've done wrong, and there's a difference between loving your country and hating your government.
On the same tone as talking about, there being issues consecutively happening over time on both parties, and acknowledging that the crimes that we've committed, we also have to acknowledge that those crimes they have implications. We've caused strife between countries. So while in the future we shouldn't cause these types of issues, we shouldn't completely walk away and not necessarily, I don't want to sympathize, but we have to understand that when we cause these problems, there's going to be refutation and strife coming from both sides. So, with the example of Israel, so yes, Palestine is not completely in the right and Israel's not completely in the wrong, but this conflict runs so deep between these two groups. It goes farther between what the U.S. has done and the stance that the U.S. has taken. These issues are so deep-rooted and, they're cultural, and it's something that we can't understand, but we have to understand why each side is doing what they're doing. This is a conflict we've created. So, of course, Palestine is not just going to stand by and watch and just say, oh, to hell with it. There is going to be, argumentation of violence on both sides, but this is a problem we've created and a problem that we cannot continue to create in other nations. And by continuing to side with one nation, not understanding that the other nation is only doing what they're doing because of the problem we've caused, I find that that's equally problematic.
Peace is the goal. Cooperation is the goal.
And if we need to remove our support for a specific actor, then so be it.
Thank you. So that concludes our topic of foreign policy. We will next move on to something that is somewhat similarly also related, fiscal policy. I guess I'll start with the tariffs that were just in place. So I guess I'll actually start with college journalists.
So, definitely there's so many pros and cons to tariffs, I'd say. And we, as Democrats, we do believe that there should be some cost to trade. Definitely, I would say we need to acknowledge that, again, that there's so much diversity in ideas within the Democratic Party. Many like to look at this as a globalized, as a goal of globalization, where we run trade freely through our borders, through exports and imports. And there's just so many different sides to that, I'd say, to the tariff issue. However, specifically into China, right now, with China being a rising economic superpower, I would say for diplomatic reasons, we must not purposefully agitate China. We must make China our best friend.
I'd just like to add that I think the goal overall, not just with this issue, but all issues that we've looked at, cooperation is the issue, or the goal at the end of the day. So whatever works best, for the countries that we're working with and we're trading with and we're interacting with, we have to understand, the history behind our relationship with these nations. And as Bryan said, not necessarily favor one over the other, but understand the implications of the way their economy is set up versus ours, and the way that their economy affects ours definitely should be taken.
Thank you. Eagles will read the same question.
Yeah, there are no good reasons to enact a tariff. It's literally slapping yourself in the face. All tariffs do is increase the prices you have to pay for the goods. There's no logical reason to use tariffs.
One historical example I would cite that was right after the Great Depression, Herbert Hoover tried to increase funding to the government, tried to increase the economy. Unfortunately, sent us way deeper into the Depression. That's one historical example. Also, I would also cite again Dr. Arthur Lawford, who graciously came to us last weekend. Another major disagreement he had with President Trump during the campaign was the enactment of tariffs. And I think he's 100% correct on that.
Yeah, tariffs only push us towards war and disagreement and conflict. Free trade is the best policy for peace and prosperity. Free trade incentivizes peace, disincentivizes war. Countries that engage in free trade are much less likely to be invaded or to invade.
Thank you.
Look, tariffs are bad. Republicans unequivocally believe that unilateral free trade, even if the other countries are imposing tariffs on us, if we don't impose tariffs, it's always in our benefit. But again, I would like to bring up Dr. Laffer as well. He said something along the lines of Donald Trump does not represent, he represents the entire party, but a lot of the party disagrees with him on a lot of things. Tariffs was a big issue. Dr. Laffer made the argument, though, that Trump is implementing these tariffs because he wants to force the hands of these other countries to come in and renegotiate these awful trade deals that we have been subjected to for the past, I'm not even sure how long, but NAFTA, TPP, these tariffs are a force of hand to make these countries come to the table and finally hash out a trade deal that we can agree is fair.
And like he was saying about the tariffs, the Republican Party is actually pretty locked up and we're against tariffs because we believe in the free market, we believe in free trade, and we believe in the right to be able to trade fairly across borders. And it's very true that these trade agreements, whether it's CPP or NAFTA, have helped other countries and have only hurt others. And it doesn't matter if you go to Mexico and ask about what's happened because of NAFTA there, or Canada, or the U.S. Everyone has had a downside to it. And all the U.S. is asking for is to come up and say, hey, let's have free trade without any restrictions. True, no restrictions.
And we're not saying tariffs are the best way to handle this, but maybe, just maybe, it'll get these countries to sit at the table and work with us.
Thank you. So we'll move on to something else since we're a little bit pressed for time.